Welcome to the CheeseTalk podcast. I am your host. Well, I got my cat here, Luna, on my lap, but she's co-host tonight, I guess, or co-host. I'm joined with my Twitter follower friend, fellow Packer backer, Lindsey. How you doing, Lindsey?
I'm doing great. How are you today, Brian?
I'm doing great. Enjoying this cool weather compared to what you're getting down there in Oklahoma, right?
Yes, super hot today.
First, I want to give a shout out to the Ope Network for giving me the chance to pod under their umbrella, the Ope Network. Currently, they are 51 followers away on Twitter or X of reaching the goal of 523 followers to be able to give away an 8x10 autographed Jair Alexander picture. 51 more followers. So, Lindsey, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. Like Brian said, I'm Lindsey. I'm originally from a small town in northwestern Minnesota. I have lived there. I lived in Fargo, North Dakota for about 10 years before transferring grad school to the University of Oklahoma. So I'm coming to you live from OU's campus in Norman, Oklahoma. I have been a diehard Packers fan for about 30 years. Obviously love football. I love college football as well. You know, being at OU has kind of really strengthened my passion for that. I'm also super passionate about the sport of springboard diving.
So now I know I've talked to you off of air, obviously, to get you on the show, but you said you used to be a diving coach?
Yeah, I was. My journey into coaching was kind of unorthodox. I basically started diving when I was about 12 years old. The dive coach came into our gymnastics gym and asked if anybody would want to be interested in trying diving, and so I jumped at that chance. I already was swimming as a competitive swimmer, and I didn't super love swimming, and I thought, if I try diving, this will be a great chance for me to not have to swim as much and try something else. Of course, that didn't really pan out because they do ask you to do both if you are able to swim at all, at least in high school, so I did swimming and diving. I went to college originally right after graduation with no intention to be a college athlete. I made it 1 year in college, and I didn't do so hot, and so I took about a 4-year break from college. When I was 23, 24, I went back in and I took my shot at the sport I loved and went on to the dive team at Minnesota State. I dove there for 1 season. I dealt with a nagging shoulder injury that had kind of been plaguing my career throughout, and so I dove for 1 season. And then I actually ended up being asked to take over as the coach, and so I ended up coaching my former teammates for, I was a sophomore in college. So coaching full-time and going to school and managing that was difficult, but my love for the sport grew. I had never coached a day of diving in my life before I started collegiate coaching, and so that's, kind of a different story. But I've worked with diving at a few different levels. I've coached high school diving, I've coached USA Diving Club, I've coached for NAIA, and I've coached for Division II. So most recently I have been with Oklahoma Baptist University Swimming and Diving. I was with them from 2013 until 2021 when our program was cut after that season. So overall, about 16 years of collegiate diving coaching experience. I've had some success with a national champion at Division II and a handful of All-Americans and lots of NAIA championships. And so it's been amazing to still contribute to the sport. I do go and judge Division II nationals whenever I'm asked and everything. So it's a nice way to stay connected even without being super active in the sport anymore.
Sure. So what's the average schedule of a diver, like a college diver? Is it like year round, or is it just like?
Well, so the competition season for swimming and diving, you start having meets usually in mid to late September, and then your championships are going to be usually like the first, second weekend in March. And so it is a pretty long season. It's technically considered a winter sport. So, but between all the preseason stuff and postseason stuff, basically you're doing it all throughout the academic year. So there really aren't breaks. And of course, when they go home for summer, they do want to still try to train a little bit or at least stay in shape so they're not losing anything when they come back in for the next academic year. But typically, collegiate athletes are allowed to have 20 hours a week of practice time. And so we definitely, we're hitting that every week. Typically, there's a morning session that will be, cardio, weights, kind of strength training, and then usually one dive session a day as well. If we're on break from school, like we usually over a winter session, typically we'd go on a training trip and there'd be like 2 pool sessions a day along with weights and cardio.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Think of the life of a diver. Now, you said you were doing both diving and competitive swimming?
I was in high school. Yeah, I did not swim in college. Thankfully, there were enough talented swimmers on the team that I did not end up having to swim in college. But I did in high school. I was a breaststroker, so I swam breaststroke. Sometimes, freestyle on the relays and everything. But definitely diving was more passionate for me. I still follow the sport. Of course, we've got Olympic trials and everything going on right now. And so I have been glued to my television and rewatching trials just to kind of keep up with what's going on.
So you pretty much, you shadow their schedule kind of in a way, right? You're there for the 20 hours a week and you're probably working more than 20 hours a week trying to figure things out. And
yeah, definitely. As a coach, you want to put in, planning time. So you're planning your workouts, you're deciding how you want to run athletes through progressions and train new skills, along with making sure your current list is ready to use in competition at any time. So, there's definitely some planning that goes into it just to make sure your athletes feel ready and they feel confident in developing those new skills. And so, yeah, when I first started coaching, like I said, since I hadn't really coached before, I had coached gymnastics, but I had never coached diving. And so I used to record all of the practices using a TiVo. And so after the athletes were done, I would rewind the practice and watch it again myself, just kind of looking for those corrections and trying to, better myself as a coach so I would feel confident giving that feedback that the athletes need to succeed.
that's crazy. You think of all the stuff that goes into every sport. Every sport's different. So it's
absolutely.
That's kudos to you. I right now I coach U15 to 19 girls, and then I coach U15 boys.
Okay.
I got 2 daughters that are in the U15 to 19. Well, my younger daughter got brought up to the girls team because I was the coach, and it let my daughters play together, and then my other 2 boys, I coached them in the U15, and just keeping them active, keeping them doing drills that is going to hopefully make them be successful in the season. It's just you're constantly outside of work or outside of practice, trying to think of different ways to maybe do this drill, do that drill.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the fall and winter, I coach basketball for my youngest boy.
Okay.
And that's just crazy. This volunteering just to get out of the house.
Yeah, but even if it's volunteer, like there's still a lot of work that goes into that. I mean, it doesn't matter what level you're at, you're still having to put forth a lot of effort to make everything click. So
yeah. And my youngest boy, he wants to go for football this fall, so I volunteered to coach football. So it's just I'm busy, but it keeps me busy and it keeps them busy, not a trouble. So it's a win-win for both of us.
Yeah, it's really interesting how like your kids' interests can sort of direct your career in a way. I mean, I'm always excited to see when parents are willing to jump in and volunteer and stuff, and I think it's awesome to be connected with your kids through their interests for sure.
Yeah, certainly. Now, you're a Packers fan.
Mm-hmm.
What made you become a Packer fan?
Okay, so I get this question a lot from having grown up in Minnesota. Obviously, Vikings are everything where I'm from. But when I was about 12 or so, my sister started dating a man who grew up in Madison, Wisconsin.
That's where I'm from.
Really? Okay. So they're married now. Obviously, they lived in he's in radio, and so they lived in De Pere for quite some time, like 10ish years. He was on air there and everything, and so
that's where I live now.
Okay. Well, awesome.
What is going on?
Right? I don't know how we don't already know each other outside of this. But yeah, so my sister's then boyfriend was a Packers fan, and my family ourselves, we weren't super big into professional football, and nobody was really watching the Vikings or anything, with the exception of maybe a couple of my uncles. But I really, I remember when I started being a Packers fan is when Brett Favre was playing, and so of course, like him and like Donald Driver, just like seeing those connections and seeing the success that they were having and how passionate everybody was about it, and just the good team vibe, it just sort of made me fall in love with professional football. And I thought, you know what, like this Packers team is a great story. I love how they are citizen owned and everything. I think that's just so different from other structures in the league. And ever since then, I've kind of been a lifelong fan. And obviously it's been a wild ride for all of us Packer fans over recent years and everything. But yeah, so I just basically got introduced because someone else was a fan, and I decided to follow along with them.
Yeah, that's a very cool story because everyone becomes a fan at different points in their life. I can remember I was born in 1982, so I remember the early 90s with Brett Favre.
Yes.
Just how fun it was to watch him play.
Oh yeah, just so electric all the time,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this year's draft, and who is your favorite pick?
Definitely Cooper is my favorite pick. Obviously, being down here and OU is heading into the SEC, and so we're, kind of here and there with A&M fans and teams and all that. But definitely, I thought he was a great college player. I think he's going to bring a lot of strength and speed to the position, and I'm super excited that we were able to sign him, and I'm excited to watch for sure. Yeah. Who's your favorite pick?
My favorite pick, there's a couple of them: Cooper and Javon Bullard out of Georgia. I think they bring some of the missing swagger in certain areas of our defense. I mean, you have Jair at corner. Mm-hmm. Then we got Xavier McKinney too.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Huge offseason ad, for sure.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh my gosh, I'm just so excited to watch them play together, to watch Alexander and McKinney play together. I think it's going to be so great. Like I said, I think it's going to be a lot more speed, a lot more explosiveness, and a lot more of those like big Showtime plays. I just can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, because I mean, you figure you're gonna have probably Bullard and McKinney, Jair, and maybe Stokes, the other corner.
Yeah, I hope that he can stay healthy. I know he's kind of been dealt with some injuries the last couple of seasons, and we haven't seen, I think, as much from him as he's capable of putting forth. And I hope that if he stays healthy, he's going to have a stellar season.
Yeah, because I mean, our defense. If you look back into our draft the last few years, we've drafted a lot of stud defensive players. I mean, you look at Rashawn Gary's offseason video. And he looks scary,
Oh, yeah.
He's a man on a mission. And he's going to, I think, go back into some of the formation when he was at Michigan, down on his hands on the corner, rushing from the edge, and that should have some teams worried. I would think so.
Yeah.
And then you got Kenny Clark, you got Devontae Wyatt, you got Quay Walker. I mean, Luke Van Ness. It's.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm super excited to see kind of Quay Walker step up. Hopefully it's into more of like a leadership role. Obviously it was sad to lose Russell Douglas. I think a lot of us were as fans. And so I'm sort of hoping that, he can step up into a leadership role and really kind of, build up the young guys and just make it even better.
And I think he will, because you look at his first year, a couple of those penalties where he laid hands on trainers and stuff. And then last year, he was the first one that you saw walk away from a situation. So I think he's maturing real quick.
Absolutely. Just, kind of like night and day from the first season. I just think, he did such a great job second season of sort of, staying within himself and not letting himself get carried away by anything going on in the field and just kind of harnessing that energy into his field of play. And I think it's going to be great to watch.
For sure. What makes this team better than last year's team?
I think experience. Obviously we went through what people would call a rebuild. All of us fans know that rebuild lasted maybe all of 4 months before we really started to see results. But I think, with having all of our young receivers and everybody having had time together now, being through the season, being through a postseason experience, I just really think the team chemistry is there. And so I'm just excited to watch Jordan Love go out there and slay it again. I mean, of course, everyone had their doubts after having just this legacy of great quarterbacks that Green Bay has had, but I don't see any reason to think that anybody got it wrong with Jordan Love. I mean, we watched him just grow throughout the season, and I'm so excited to watch him in his sophomore season.
Yeah, I always say that, like, going into last year, we didn't know what we were going to have to play with because, with Aaron Rodgers' situation and whatnot. But then going into this last year's draft, we knew what we had before we drafted, so we kind of. And I believe that we had the money to go out and make some key acquisitions with McKinney and Josh Jacobs.
Yeah,
which I think is going to be huge. It sucks losing Aaron Jones, but something went awry there. Something happened, and this is whatever. It's a business. Jacobs is 3 years younger, same type of running style. We went out and got possibly the best running back in the draft in Marshawn Lloyd, who was like a mini version of, or maybe a bigger version of Josh Jacobs. So, I mean, it's just it sucks to see him go, but it is what it is, you know.
I mean, yeah, the potential is definitely there for us to have a great running back core. I see AJ Dillon has somehow put on even more body build. I don't know how it's possible, but he looks great. I think it was maybe, what was it, like the greatest hour in Packers fandom when we had Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs. Everybody was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be the greatest season ever. And then, of course, we lose him to our rival, and I'm just so sick of that happening. But, we got to work with what we got, and I think that what we have is also incredible.
Yeah, I think it is too. And you got to think back to it. You think of Aaron Jones and the injuries, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, how much of the last two or 3 years? I mean, when he played, he gave us everything he had, but how much was he on the field the last few years?
Yeah, and that was a good question. Of course, like in retrospect, after getting over all of our initial shock and anger, like we can start to raise those questions and just say, were we getting, the absolute best every time? Well, no, you certainly can if you're injured. Of course, when he's on the field, it was obviously great. I mean, world class. But yeah, I think you want to be able to invest your money in a player that's going to remain healthy and be able to contribute for you every game.
Yeah, and definitely, I could see them doing something. I know they signed Josh Jacobs to a 4-year deal, but with drafting Marshawn Lloyd and seeing how he develops, I wouldn't see Jacobs lasting those 4 years in Green Bay.
Yeah, it's possible they maybe just needed someone to come in that did have a lot of game time experience, a lot of, super stellar performances on his previous team. And I think maybe that's good for those young guys to kind of have that role model to follow along. But, as we've seen before, it doesn't take long until the young guys can sort of surpass, guys that have been around. But I think it is really great and important for them all to train together.
What do you think of the our receiving core?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think, for sure we're on one more awesome year of having all these players together and having all these weapons for Jordan Love. I don't know what's going to happen with the salary cap moving into next season. I don't know if we're going to be able to retain all of our pieces that we have in place now. And I know there's a lot of discourse around, who's the number one wide receiver in Green Bay. And I don't know that even needs to be an issue. I feel like Jordan Love used all of those weapons last year. They all played very different roles. And so I'm excited to see what they're going to do this year and who's going to stand out. And especially knowing that, there's maybe a contract year coming for some people. And we're obviously not going to have the money to keep everybody that we've got now, but I think we're going to have them all for this season. I think it's going to be a really exciting run.
Yeah, I believe that it would be nice to see the receiving core, knowing how good they can be, to all take a pay cut and just stick around. And just because look at how many receivers want to go after all the big money, then they go and then they like disappear. I mean, look at Ellen Lazard. What happened to him? Look what happened. It's just MVS was, I guess, another example, but he actually won 2 rings, not solely because of him, but because of the Chiefs. But and then you got to think about too, if you have 5 or 6 decent receivers, you got to filter through and figure who's going to be the best investment, and the other ones before the contract comes up, try to trade them for draft picks. And that way you can do the same thing you did with them in the future. You can draft young receivers and develop them and keep using what you draft and get, return on them.
Absolutely. I personally can't wait to see more from Jayden Reed this year. I just loved watching number 11 last year. I thought he was so electric and so, like, he just sort of was able to get these catches that you didn't, you were thinking, like, how is this a first-year guy? Like, how is he doing this? And it's so awesome. I hope to see him develop a little bit more as well.
Yeah, we got out of him what we wanted out of Amari Rodgers when we drafted him, but he just didn't pan out. So
yeah, you mentioned MVS, and I felt like his style of play was also very similar as it was with Green Bay, but yet he was able to have more success because I think they need a more complete team. And so I think we're working our way toward a really great complete team by doing this sort of cycle of bringing in young guys, having them train with seasoned people, and then just sort of cycling through. It seems like we don't necessarily have a lot of weak pieces, just a lot of young guys that are eager to play.
Yeah, and I don't know. We got a new training staff. They had Christian Watson and I think it was Jair Alexander went down to UW-Madison to figure out the hamstring. So they mean business. So it's good to see because he always, it's like you sit there in the season during next game. Oh, so and so is not playing. Well, what even happened with him? Like, was he pull his hammy walking up his stairs, or
Right. I'm just glad they finally are willing to invest the resources and time and figure this out. And I don't know if there were any changes to the strength and conditioning staff that were made to maybe sort of prevent this from happening in the future. But I think, it's always good when a franchise is willing to invest in people to get down to the root of the problem and solve it so that you're not missing game time and you're able to produce.
Pretty sure they got a whole new staff.
Okay, well there we go. That will
I think they got some people from the 49ers organization training staff to come over. Don't quote me on that, but I could have swore I heard that.
Really glad to hear that Christian isn't dealing with that nagging injury anymore, and hopefully his production will go up.
Because I think if he's 100% healthy, I think he's our number one.
Yeah, I would tend to agree as well. I mean, last year we just got to see so many different looks because of the staff that we had. So it'll be interesting to see what a fully healthy Christian Watson looks like this year for us.
What do you think the turning point was last year?
I would say, again, we don't obviously get all of the games broadcast down here because we are in a different market that doesn't totally show Green Bay games all the time. But from what I did see, it looked to kind of be, when Jordan Love really started to make those connections with young receivers, like when he found Wicks, when he's finding Reed, I think it was just a whole season of building chemistry and just, having confidence behind throwing the ball and knowing that you've got a lot of people out there who are going to go up and get it. And those guys were willing to take the chance. And so I think, when they really started to trust in each other, maybe game 4-ish, game 5-ish into the year, it just really started to kind of click. And we just kind of saw it grow from there. And it was so exciting to watch.
Yeah, it was. It's just some of those throws that he was making is just incredible. Like there's I know what I'm talking about, but I can't remember what game it was where they threw it and it went past one defender's hands and another defender's hands and a third defender's hands right in was it Dobbs or Reed in the back or in the end zone?
Yeah, I think maybe Dobbs. I feel like I'm not positive, but yeah.
Was that against the Cowboys?
Well, I'm not sure.
So many great plays in that game, I can't remember.
Yeah. Obviously, the Cowboys game that's on my mind is that playoff game this year. So
yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
my husband is a Cowboys fan, and so we are obviously a house divided when it comes down to that. But he still appreciates Green Bay and has become a fan of Green Bay as his number 2 team. So whenever they're not playing each other, he's able to root for them. But yeah, I'm going to like family Thanksgivings and Christmases and everything it's a little bit different. Of course, I wear my Packer gear all the time because I just have to start trouble. But
So when you guys watched that, when they played last year in the playoffs, were you guys in the same room?
Oh yeah, we were. We actually had a little bit of a bet. Whoever's team won, got to pick a clothing item, like apparel item of their choice that the other person had to buy. And so I did get a Packer sweatshirt out of the deal that I'd been eyeing. And I just think my husband thought maybe this isn't possible with this young team. And but he's very critical of his team as well. I think as all good fans are, you got to be able to spot the issues. And so we talked through that quite a bit. But yeah,
they could be in some trouble here pretty soon.
I really think so.
If they don't get CeeDee Lamb and then they get rid of if they don't re-sign Prescott, I mean that's.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, some of the fans are a little bit ready to move on from Prescott. He's a great player and he's winning them games, but not necessarily when it counts. And I'm just wondering how long the Prescott experience is going to last if they don't start producing in the postseason.
Well, and the money that he's getting paid, he needs to produce off that money. I mean, Aaron Rodgers was making $60 million a year, and he got us 8 wins his last year in Green Bay. I mean,
right.
So yeah. If I were them, I would get like this. Obviously, this year, if you're going to stick with Dak, and then I don't even know who their backup is, but get somebody in the draft. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I can't remember who their backup is either. I don't know offhand, but I mean, they definitely need to make a decision here and decide if they're going to continue to spend money on somebody who, has not necessarily proven themselves in the postseason. And, Jerry's looking for that postseason win and he's looking for it all every year, but you've got to make moves on your roster that are conducive to that. And so it's just kind of an interesting dynamic in Dallas.
Yeah, it's always fun to look at, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially in your household.
For sure. And of course, us as Packer fans have the luxury to sit back and be like, oh yeah, we just sort of don't necessarily all the way worry about it. It's like we just know our administration is going to take care of what needs to be taken care of, and we've been enjoying success. Obviously, ultimate success is you win the Super Bowl and that's it. That's not going to happen for every team every year, but I was super excited to see that in Jordan Love's first year we did win a playoff game and get to the next round. And so I think there's a lot of exciting stuff to build on in the future.
For sure. Yeah, that's definitely, we're kind of, he sat behind Rodgers for 3 or 4 years and then he came in and it's like he had a couple speed bumps, but he got it together and played really well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
go ahead.
Just waiting on that contract now, right? Like, where is it? What's going on?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I there's rumors that it's gonna happen before training camp.
Okay, well, TikTok, because that's coming up, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have no idea what it will be, but I really feel like it's worth every penny. I think we saw what he had to offer last year, and we're only going to see that continue to grow. And so, in my opinion, you invest in this person and you pay him.
Yeah, and then even getting McKinney and Jacobs in their press conference when they first got to Green Bay, they said Jordan Love was part of the reason why they came to Green Bay.
Yeah, people want to play with him. It's just, it's electric. It's electric watching him. I just felt like the whole vibe last year, the team felt so young and so inexperienced, but then it just kept growing and growing and doing these things that people, they counted us out. They did. And I think that was a mistake.
And you said, they're young, but I don't think they realize their potential.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly. Once it hits, it's going to be crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes like these young guys coming in, like they just they play like without fear. They're not in their heads. They play without fear. Sometimes as you develop in a sport, you kind of it's definitely this way with diving. Like you learn sort of what to be afraid of, but when you're young and going in, like you just play with reckless abandon and you have no fear. And I think that's maybe a little bit of what we were seeing last year.
Yeah, I loved Aaron for everything he did for Green Bay, but I think the last few years was kind of like could have been prevented.
Mm-hmm. I just felt like as a fan, like we're kind of just sitting in this purgatory of like, okay, we know that like, the end clock is running here. What are we going to do with this situation? And it just sort of felt like it was dragging out and we just needed some new life kind of breathed into the organization, which I think is what we got with Jordan Love. Yeah,
and the thing too is that what really pushed me over the edge was the last game. I mean, after I was playing with a broken finger, for a majority of the year. Well, if you go and you say, Jordan Love is this good and this and that, he's a hell of a player, a hell of a kid, let him go and sit on the bench. Get your thumb better.
Yeah.
When you sacrifice the team's success because you had a broken thumb, I mean, whatever. Is it something like –
and you got someone clearly ready waiting in the wings to take over and to give it a shot. So, and some of the decisions I didn't totally understand near the end of the Rodgers era, but I know I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that the organization is doing the right things with how they're piecing together their roster and giving everybody these young guys
they
a
are.
chance.
Yeah. I mean, you could just get that vibe that Goody's not going to play around. Now that we actually have money to go out and do stuff, we did something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like we won't be taking the cap hits from Aaron and Bakhtiari here shortly, and we're going to have money to go out and spend.
Yeah, yep. And maybe that's bringing in a couple more, seasoned veteran pieces that still have some good years in them. I don't know exactly what that would look like, but so far all of our young guys are rocking it, and I just cannot wait for football to start this year.
Yeah, I'm super excited for sure. I know we talked about Dallas. So McCarthy or Matt LaFleur?
Oh, Matt LaFleur, of course. I mean, I remember when they hired McCarthy, and I was thinking for my husband, for you guys, I think this is a good hire because you've been having Jason Garrett for all of these years and you've had similar, every year is kind of the same result. Obviously, it's not only on the head coach for that reason, but after a while, you kind of got to question it and decide if, what you've tied your organization to is the right choice. And I think for them in that time, I think McCarthy was a good hire. I mean, we've seen what he can do. Obviously, Green Bay experienced success with him. It isn't like he is, an experienced coach. He's been to the highest of levels, of course. I think it was a good hire for them. Nothing down on McCarthy, but I'd rather have Matt LaFleur personally.
Didn't Mike or McCarthy have that quote, "I'm a highly successful coach, just ask me"? Isn't that him?
Probably. That sounds about right, yeah.
The train has left the station.
Yeah.
I know some of these sports shows up here, sports talk shows, when they had when McCarthy, even some of the sound clips in their intro and stuff, they would have that clip. The train has left the station. So you've been to Green Bay, correct?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I've never actually been to a game at Lambeau. It's totally on the bucket list. I've been to Lambeau to see it and like to eat at Curly's and stuff, but I have not actually been during a game. My husband got to go when he was a child. They drove all the way up to Green Bay and said, that it was a winter, and so they were very cold and unprepared, and that all the fans were so welcoming and nice. And I hope to have that experience one day. But so far, no, I have not been to see a game. I have just been to the field. So
when you hear Green Bay, what comes to mind?
Cheeseheads, of course. Like, I just think the cheesehead is like one of the coolest novelty things that fans can have. I would love to find one like for my dog. I don't know if they make those, but I'm really interested into looking.
You can always get one and have like put a strap on.
Yeah, oh my gosh, totally.
Ear to ear.
Yeah, I mean, you just think you think Cheese heads. You of course think Lambeau Field. You think Lombardi. I mean, the Lombardi Trophy is called what it is for a reason. And so I just think about the great history there, the great stories from a great program, and just how I just think it's very like encompassing of the city. Like the city of Green Bay owns the Packers and they're all into it. It just seems like tailgating there would be so much fun, such a good environment for a game. I love to watch on TV when it's like nighttime games and it's snowing. It's just like, it's such a cool ambiance and such a cool environment. I think it would be really exciting to play there.
Yeah, they have like a 2-story, just 2 or 3-story at Lambeau in one of the wings.
Mm-hmm.
You know how they have like the square pylons in each corner?
Yeah,
They have an open glass, or not open, but a big glass window. They have like a 3-story Lombardi Trophy replica.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy. But yeah, they have like a Packers Hall of Fame that has a history from the beginning to now, and it's just stadium tour is amazing. We had our dinner rehearsal for our wedding at Lambeau back when it was Curly's Pub, but now they've changed names of the restaurant there. But we had that there. It was like brats and burgers and everything, and I had a cheesehead replica from a groom's cake at my wedding, and
I love that.
We took a stadium tour at nighttime there, and when we walked out of the tunnel where the Packers run out, it was dark out, and the fire alarms went off, and like all the press boxes and everything had those fire alarm strobe lights, and it was going all around the stadium, back and forth. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that is so cool. I love that. I love you got to have your reception dinner there and all that, or rehearsal dinner. That's so cool.
Yeah, we see, my wife is from De Pere and I'm from Madison. So when we first met and got married, she moved in with me down there, and we were there for less than a year, and we moved back north. And I never thought I'd be living this close to Lambeau Field, and every time you go by, you just get goosebumps,
Oh yeah. And it's just, I mean, it really is just like right in the middle of like, it's residential area, like right across the street from it, So
yeah,
it's really cool. It really is just smack dab in the middle of the town.
Yeah, and then Lombardi Avenue, people think of it as like there's some long road. It's like not even a mile long. You go 41 to Ashland, and then in between is Lombardi Avenue, but it's really built up around the area big time.
Yeah. So what do you think about Green Bay hosting the draft? I know there's been a lot of hot takes on this, but
well, they own pretty much all the property from 41 to Lambeau and beyond. They've been buying property left and right. I think it's awesome. I think it puts more of a spotlight on Green Bay and how historical of a place it is. And, I tell people, even if you're not a fan of the Packers, just the history that's inside the building. I mean, they have game-worn cleats and jerseys and pants in the Hall of Fame tour of Reggie White, Brett Favre, and, all this stuff. And like Lombardi's desk, his phone, his lamps, then like championship jackets that the Lombardis bought the players' wives back in the 60s. And it's just crazy. I think it's going to draw the economy in Green Bay is going to skyrocket. I'm going to have my wife drop me off on the corner of Lombardi and Ashland. I'll walk there.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'll have her come pick me back up, but I'm definitely going to be there. I want to be there.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. I mean, I really think, people were like, oh, how is the infrastructure in Green Bay going to handle all these? You know what? I think they're going to prove everybody wrong. I think they're going to give everyone a great time. People are, I think, going to be so surprised at how fun it's going to be, and just kind of, the kind of ambience that Green Bay can create for this event. I think it's going to be so cool.
Well, it's not even just Green Bay. You figure Milwaukee. You're going to have traffic in Chicago, Madison, Wausau. All those areas are going to be, the whole state of Wisconsin is going to be booked out.
Oh, yeah.
The UP everywhere. If you have a cabin or anything.
Book your rooms now, folks, because it's going to fill,
I guarantee you it's already full. I mean, I could be an Uber driver, like a tour guy, and I could make bank.
That's right.
Who is your all-time favorite Packer?
Oh, gosh. I have a few. I love Donald Driver. I just love him so much. I also, of course, really enjoyed watching Jordy Nelson play. I just think that's so great. And love him or hate him, I personally also always will love Mason Crosby. I just think he's served the organization so well for so long. I'd be remiss not to mention players like Favre, Rodgers, and everything, of course. But for me, Donald Driver is my all-time favorite player.
Okay, mine's Charles Woodson.
Okay, yeah.
Huge Badger fan, but ever since his Michigan days, I've always followed him and everything. I do have a Raiders Woodson jersey. I admit it.
Okay.
But
Yeah. I'm looking to. I still have not bought my first jersey. I'm looking to get one, but I got to decide which player I want to get. Because you want to go with one who already played there, had a storied career, or you want to go with someone who's up and coming. I mean, it's a really hard decision, and I'm not sure what to do about it.
I go Jordan Love.
Yeah, I think that's probably the way to go as well. I have a good feeling he's going to be around for a while. So.
Yeah, only pack of jerseys I have. Well, I have a Reggie White one, and I have a green Woodson one, and I have a black Woodson one, and I have a Raiders Woodson. So those are the only football jerseys I have. I should have more, but spending that kind of money on something,
that's what I'm
I'd feel bad if I got it dirty or So I'm picky about it.
Yeah.
I always think ahead. Like if I wear this somewhere and I get something grease on it, then there's a million things go through my mind when I'm picking out what to wear.
Yeah.
But you can usually catch me in sports shorts and a cutoff.
It works just as well. You're not any less of a fan, and you're not going to be spilling like chicken wings or whatever on your fancy jersey. So.
And that's year-round wear for me up here too.
Okay. Yeah. Even in the winter, huh?
Yeah, I've been known to shovel in my earlier years up here, shovel in shorts, cutoff, and sandals.
Okay. Well, I think you would have gone with boots myself since feet are in the snow. But otherwise, interesting choice.
It's got to keep the snow out. Got to keep the snow pushed in front of you. You can't be walking in it.
True. You're doing it right. Your feet aren't going to get cold, right?
Absolutely. Just keep on moving. The blood keeps flowing. What is if you're going to a tailgate, what are you bringing?
Well, I think every tailgate needs some sort of entertainment, like long game type of situation. And so, whether it's going to be like a giant sized beer pong, we have one of those at home. It's like a big set with like a kind of a volleyball sort of situation. That's always fun. So I think, long games are important. Obviously you got to have stuff to grill. You got to have stuff to drink. You got to have your fan attire. I think those are kind of, basically what makes up tailgating experience.
I definitely bring my Packers bake toss set that I have.
Yep, gotta have that. Gotta bring the board. Yep.
We kind of touched on free agency earlier. What are your thoughts on the free agency pickups that we got?
Well, remind me all again who they got because I'm not super versed on it.
Obviously we got AJ Dillon back.
Yep.
We got Josh Jacobs and we got Xavier McKinney.
Yeah, okay, I'll say, okay. So, super excited for McKinney. Like I said, I think he and Jair back there are going to just, they already seem like they're getting along really well, that they're sort of kind of training together, that they're building this friendship, and I think that's going to make a difference in the attitude that we're seeing from Alexander this year. I already feel like it's 180 from where it was at this point last year. For one thing, he is present, and he was not. And so that makes a big difference. But obviously, Josh Jacobs is a huge get for us, especially with the release of Aaron Jones. Josh Jacobs will play a huge role. There's no doubt about it. He is seasoned. He's going to give the young guys a really good example of role model to follow up. Who's the other one?
AJ Dillon.
Oh, AJ Dillon. And I was really happy to see them bring back Dillon because I feel like he's such a good steward for the community and everything that he does outside of football. Not to mention, he's Quadzilla, right? He is a strong player. He can get those yards. He's a utility player, and I'm excited to watch him have a great season as well. Obviously, there's going to be decisions that will have to be made moving forward, but I think for this year, we're in a good spot, and I'm super excited to watch them all play.
It's funny about AJ Dillon because when we had when we signed Josh Jacobs and then we let Aaron Jones go and Dillon was still out there, I could go back on my tweets, but I got so many of them, I don't want to spend that much time doing it, but I could go back and find where I tweeted something like, is AJ Dillon still available? ...
Yeah.
And less than a week later, they signed him. They signed him for a really cheap price. Mm-hmm. He's the mayor of Door County. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Is he on a 1-year contract right now?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so again, this is something we may revisit again after next season, but if he continues to make an impact in that RB2 role, I think that he's solidifying himself for the future. If he can kind of maintain that, maybe even have a little bit more production than he had last year.
And the thing with McKinney and Jacobs too, they're both captains. Mm-hmm. They're both captains.
Yeah,
So you bring in a captain on the defense, captain on the offense. I mean, good locker room guys. I'm excited.
You know your players are invested, and you know those young guys are going to look up and follow. So I think it's just a great situation all around.
Absolutely. Who do you think is the biggest rival to the Packers? It can't be the Bears because the Bears haven't won in 10 games.
No, I know. I was gonna say I think that the Bears think that they are our biggest rivals. I think that the Vikings think that they are our biggest rivals, right? I think for us, I mean, what I see in terms of rivalship, man, we gotta beat San Francisco. Like we gotta beat them. Like every time, it seems like so many times we get into the playoff, we'll win one game, we'll move on, and then bam, like for some reason this team is destroying us. I mean, not that it was total destruction. It was a close game, but I just don't know what it is. I don't know what it's going to take for us to get over the hump and to be able to beat San Francisco. Again, I don't want to call it necessarily a rivalry because we don't play all the time, and it's certainly not in conference. But I do think something needs to be done, man. We got to beat them. We got to get past that round, and we've got to be able to beat them. Also, I really, really like what Dan Campbell has done in Detroit. I think we'd be remiss not to talk about that. They are in our conference. I do see them as our biggest conference threat right now. Sorry, Chicago. Sorry, Minnesota. You know, you've got track records and you need to break out of that cycle for me to consider that. But I do see that Detroit is kind of on the rise, and it's really exciting to see what Dan Campbell has done there.
Isn't that crazy though? Like how good they're playing last year, and they came to our home and they kicked our butt in Lambeau. Then we went to Detroit and whooped them in Detroit. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy, and you think that the home advantage would have that be the opposite, but it just goes to show that both teams are so strong and both teams are very gritty and they're not going to back down, no matter what the environment is. And so I think that's really important for the conference moving forward.
Absolutely. Who do you think has a breakout year this year for the Packers?
I want to say Jayden Reed. I just love him. I want to see that he is, hopefully
he kind of had one last year though.
I know, but I feel like there's more. There's more. Yeah, I think more. I think like you said, someone's going to define themselves as a wide receiver one. And I know we like Watson. I like him too. I just feel like Reed is also right there. And so I'd like to see maybe one of those two step up and declare it for themselves. So I think, again, to look for more from Jordan Love. I think he's going to be starting the season just on fire and ready to go. Very confident. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to lead this team. And so I'm excited for him as well.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Wicks kind of poured it on last year.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see stuff out of Malik Heath. There's our depth at receiver just in case someone does go down. Knock on wood.
Yeah, it's awesome to have those pieces in place. Like you said, the depth is so great. I mean, you can put anyone out there and they're going to know how to make plays. And
It'd be nice to see Devontae Wyatt have a breakout year next to Kenny Clark.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That'd be huge. Great. Or Van Ness.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
I mean, the quicker they get to that quarterback, the quicker the ball's leaving his hands, and the quicker that the person that he's throwing the ball to is not where they need to be, and we get the ball and we run back and score. So
yeah, I'd like to see Musgrave have a good season as well. I thought he did pretty well last year.
Stay on his feet. What are your thoughts on got about 5 more questions for you, and we'll wrap it up. Sure. What are your thoughts on the new defensive coordinator and the scheme that he's bringing in?
So I guess I'm not super familiar with the scheme, but I can tell that the players seem to be happy about it. And I think that's the most important part. You've got to have a coach in place that can get buy-in from the players. And it seems to me like that's already happening. Clearly, we know what we had in place was not working. There were some unhappy parties involved there. And I feel like going in this new direction is going to be great. It seems like he works well with the head coach, of course, because you want those pieces in place to establish your team culture. And I think that is what's happening. And so that makes the field of play very exciting when you have all this buy-in from your athletes.
Yeah, the 4-3 is a 4-3 defensive scheme. I'm pretty sure they brought that in because how we got scorched in the run game. Mm-hmm. It helps strengthen the run game, and he seems to have the respect of all the players, and they seem to want to play for him. Jair actually showed up OTAs where in the past he hasn't shown up because of his dislike for Barry,
Yeah. So I think what's important is to note that the administration and the head coach were willing to make these changes. They're seeing, okay, what we've got, isn't working. We're going to go out and get someone else. We're going to make these changes to invest in our players and in our franchise. And I feel like there's so many franchises that are not willing to do that. People maybe stay on just a little bit, I guess maybe season longer than they should, or they're not willing to take that chance on putting something new in place. And I feel like we have been able to do that with players, with coaches. And so far, it's been working for us. And so I think it's exciting to kind of continue that trend into the future.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the new defense for sure. Favorite type of cheese?
Well, I mean, what's not to love about all of them? All cheese is good cheese. I'm a huge pepper jack fan myself. I love pepper jack. I love sharp cheddar. Cheese curds, amazing. If people have not had them, they have to try them. But I would say pepper jack and sharp cheddar are up there for my favorites.
Now you know. Once I hit 150 subscribers on my YouTube channel, I'm sending out a package of fresh cheese curds.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I'm gonna help you get there. See if we can share it away and get you to that number. Because who doesn't?
And a Cheese Life T-shirt.
Oh, awesome! Perfect.
Yeah, I like ghost pepper cheese.
Oh yeah. Okay. So really good. I mean, so spicy but so delicious.
Yeah. Then there's a place just west of GreenBay called Maplewood Meats. It's a place that when Rogers was dating was that Olivia Nunn?
Yes.
Whatever her name is.
Oh, you alumni, shout out. Anyway.
When they were dating, they did like a post or whatever, and they tagged Maplewood Meats or whatever. And anyways, my wife was there one day buying meat, obviously, and she found some Carolina Reaper cheddar cheese, and that was really good.
Oh, did you put it? Were you just like eating it off the block, just like, or were you like,
cheese cutter? I cut the cheese and I ate it.
So like a charcuterie style.
Yeah, or also if I'm making burgers, I'll top off my burger, put it on, put the lid on.
If you had put it on your burger or not, because I bet that would be really delicious.
Yeah, but I'll eat it either way. I love. Like I asked one guest one day, I asked him, "What's your favorite kind of cheese?" He said, "Within reach."
That's the truth, though. That's the truth.
You can't just have one; you got to have it all.
We had this. I don't know exactly what type of cheese it was, but it was like a dill flavored cheese, and it was so good. I wish I remember where we found it, but. Yeah,
this cheese shop is like a half a mile from my house, which could be a problem.
Right.
They have like fresh cheese curds like 4 days a week.
Oh my gosh! And how many days a week are you there for?
Huh?
And how many days a week are you there for?
No, I just go there enough to get enough to last me a couple of weeks.
Awesome.
But they have like Cajun curds. They have dill curds. They have this. Yeah, they're super good. And go there in the morning when they open up and the curds are nice and warm and squeaky and
squeakier the better.
Yeah, that means they're fresh.
Yep.
Do you think Stokes does make a positive impact this year on defense?
I hope so. Like I said, I think it's all about staying healthy. And so that's my hope. My hope is that he is healthy, and so he therefore can make an impact. Because what we've seen from him when he is healthy has been phenomenal, and I don't have any reason to believe that won't continue if he can stay healthy and stay on the field. Right,
and I liked what I saw to him his rookie year, and he got beat a handful of times or more, but he recovered, and he had like a 4.3 speed. He's fast.
Yeah,
he can use his speed to make up for his mistakes, which you don't want that they'll last forever, because one of those mistakes is going to cost you games at some point. But you just want to make sure that you got the leadership there with Jair, and now you got McKinney, and it's just I think he's going to make a positive impact. I really do.
I tend to agree with you. Especially since they have made changes in their coaching staff, everything. I just hope that the whole scheme and the buy-in from the players and the vibe, it's all going to tie together, and we're going to be firing on all cylinders on offense and defense this year. I just can't wait to watch it.
Absolutely. Do you have a most annoying fan base?
Yes, I do, Brian, and it is the Vikings fans. I cannot with them. There are so many of them on my Twitter and in my hometown and everywhere, and I just every time I hear Skull, I'm just like.
Whenever my kids play Madden, and I'm always the Packers, but if they're ever playing against like the Vikings, I have them turn the volume down because they have that stupid chant where and they play it on the video game, and I can't stand that. It's the stupidest thing I've heard in my life.
It literally has made me hate the color purple. Like I cannot wear it. I do not. I cannot. I can't with it. That by far the most annoying fan base, and I'm sorry to any of you Vikings lovers that are seeing this right now, but I don't know why you're watching this if you're a Vikings lover. So that's the real truth of it. Just don't.
Hey, I have all fans on. I don't care who it is.
I'm sorry if I have offended any Vikings fans, but I feel that you probably feel similarly about me and our fandom as well. So.
Yeah, we're a little crazy ourselves, according to some people.
Oh yeah.
What are your thoughts on Caleb Williams in the Bears franchise?
Well, it's a pretty loaded question because he did originally come from OU, and so we got to enjoy him for one season. where he took over playing quarterback for Spencer Rattler in the Red River rivalry against Texas. We were down. Caleb came in. He was Superman. He won it for us. He carried us through the rest of a really great season. And so, of course, I've got love for Caleb because I think he's a fantastic player. The coaching situation surrounding all of that between OU and USC is a whole other hot mess I don't think we have the time to get into today. And so I didn't love that his allegiance was to the coach instead of the program. I think had he stayed with OU, it would maybe be a little bit different. But then again, you just went number 1 overall in the draft. And so how much better can it be for you? I think he's got high football IQ. He's a fast player. I hope that if they're expecting success, that they put some pieces around him on OL to keep him on his feet. I think that's going to be probably the biggest question mark right now. Yep. Is that he was successful at the college level. Again, they obviously didn't make college football playoffs or championship or anything, but he got that Heisman, and you don't win that if you're not deserving. And so he's definitely very talented. I think he's going to give us maybe some challenge, but he's got to be able to stay on his feet. He's got to have important O-line around him to make sure that happens. And we'll see if it's hype or if it comes to fruition. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, they had a couple of receivers from last year. They got Odunze and Keenan Allen, and they got DJ Moore.
Yeah.
Which Fields and Moore had a good connection last year. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, I see where you're coming from, but I don't think he's proven. I mean, you can prove at the collegiate level all you want, but exactly. you come in. You can come from college to the NFL, and it depends on the situation you're put in. If you're really good in college and you go to the NFL, you get drafted first pick of the draft, and you get thrown in at quarterback. How many successful quarterbacks have been just thrown into the fire right away?
Yeah, it's a tough position to be in. I mean, you're transitioning to a whole new style of game, a whole new speed of play. Everything is bigger, better, and different, right? And so obviously, yeah, all these NCAA guys are unproven in their rookie season until they get that experience under their belt. But it's important to have pieces around him that's going to create that success. You mentioned that Fields and Moore had a good connection, and so I don't feel there's any reason to think that Williams and Moore won't also have a good connection. But yeah, you're right. He's got to get out on the field. He's got to prove himself. And just like along with the rest of the team, right now they don't really have a lot to be talking about in terms of success from last year, any of that. But, it could be totally different this year. We just have to wait and see.
And he's got to stay on his feet too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You can't throw to your weapons when you're getting sacked every other play.
Right. Yeah.
Which I hope we see when we play him.
Right. Again. Yeah. Yep.
Last question. How will the NFC North finish this year, top to bottom? Green
Bay on top, Detroit in second, Minnesota in third, Chicago in fourth.
And that's what I got as well.
Yeah, that's just how it's going to turn out. I just know it.
Perfect. Well, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to be on my show. Look forward to having you on in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to switch things up maybe a little bit down the road, maybe switch some of the questions, and maybe we'll get you on during training camp and see what articles come out, what stories come out, and delve in on that.
That sounds perfect. About next 2 months of my life will be devoted to watching the Olympics and finishing up watching the trials. I am a huge Olympics stan. I will cry at all the events when America wins. That's just part of who I am. And so right now I'm just super excited about the Olympics and can't wait to talk about all that too. And so maybe there's a future episode kind of in that realm for us. So absolutely.
Football, diving, life, whatever. We'll talk about it.
Yeah. This has been so fun. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.